This week in the UN, expected things announced. For example, the resumption of the 10th General Assembly Emergency Special Session, or what we call ESS. After consultation, the session will be held on 10th of May. Well, we told you last week this is going to happen, right? And the ESS will be again about Palestine and Gaza situation, and it's not necessarily in connection with the veto US cast in Security Council. But unexpected things also happened this week. For example, the General Assembly session to discuss US veto on the admission of Palestine's full membership. No doubt both Palestinian ambassador and Israeli ambassador went to the podium to express their sense of crisis.
Those who want to destroy the Palestinian state and with it any chance for peace are not waiting.
Remember, many have tried to destroy us, from the most powerful of empires to the most evil of decrees.
Now, to be serious, Palestinian Ambassador Mansour talked about double standard without naming that one country who vetoed the draft resolution.
Our admission to the UN is long overdue. Long overdue. It has been 75 years in the making. How can those who supported the admission of Israel 75 years ago, while it was violating the Charter and fundamental UN resolutions, and in isolation from a just solution of the conflict, explain that Palestine's admission 75 years later should be conditioned to the achievement of such a solution? The words double standards are not enough to describe how absurd this logic is.
And Israeli Ambassador Erdan warned the consequence of granting Palestine statehood.
Granting full UN membership to the Palestinians will only have two destructive results. Number one, it will further incentivize terror, as I explained. And number two, it is a clear message to the Palestinians that they never ever have to sit at the negotiating table, let alone to make any compromises. Everyone who understands something about negotiations can understand what I just said. The Palestinians have rejected in the past every peace plan ever made, and they continue to support terror and boycott any negotiations. And now they know that their rejectionism pays off.
For United States, Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood made a statement similar to his remarks in the Security Council. He argued that Palestine is not ready for statehood. It needs to talk directly with Israel first to make a deal, and the US is still devoted to the two-state solution. But one thing is interesting here.
A group of countries has already formally requested that the President of the General Assembly convene a meeting of the 10th Emergency Special Session on the veto at issue. Accordingly, the veto initiative meeting today should not have been held. We think that the convening of this meeting today is both inconsistent with Resolution 262 and is an improper use of the General Assembly's time and resources.
The veto initiative was adopted by General Assembly in April 2022. Its full name is Standing Mandate for a General Assembly Debate when a veto is cast in the Security Council. This is a General Assembly resolution US supported when Russia vetoed all Security Council resolutions on Ukraine. Well, I would say back that time, US mission had not quite the same opinion of this.
That there would be no General Assembly meeting convened on the casting of a veto if the General Assembly had already met on the same situation at a meeting of an emergency special session. Whether the General Assembly convenes an emergency special session or another meeting, we support this forum discussing the matter and would be willing to participate if it is the United States casting a veto.
But here is the resolution. Let me try to explain what happened. The resolution decides the President of General Assembly shall convene a formal meeting of the General Assembly within 10 working days of the casting of a veto by one or more permanent members of the Security Council to hold a debate on the situation as to which the veto was cast, provided that the Assembly does not meet in a emergency special session on the same situation. So, the veto meeting should be held within 10 working days. For US veto this time, it has to be before May the 2nd. And the Assembly will assume the ESS on 10th of May, which is, I would say, way in the future, and is not overlapping the veto meeting. And that is the logic why President of General Assembly decide to have the meetings. And also, this is the first week of May, which means a new Security Council president. I asked the permanent representative of Mozambique on the implementation of Security Council resolutions. We saw many resolutions nowadays, they are not really implemented. Do you think this is a big concern for you? And if you would expect some outcomes during your presidency, how would you make sure that those are implementable? Thank you.
The world is made of individual and sovereign states. Even if the Charter says that our Security Council resolutions or decisions are binding and mandatory, it will always depend on each member state to implement at its level, at its domestic level. We have not yet a machinery of compelling each one of member states to comply unless we adopt sanctions. So, United Nations is a very important organization, but it is not a world government. We have our limitation as an organization.
Oh, one more thing we're closely watching is the construction of US temporary pier in Gaza to provide humanitarian aid. It's been reported that the pier would finish construction in early May and cost $320 million to build. And yes, it's temporary. Is that a waste of money? That temporary pier cost $320 million. Yep. That's, I just checked this number. The US flash appeal for UNRWA is $1.2 billion, which is like 4 times this number. Do you think that that money, given the fact that everybody said that humanitarian delivery by road is the best way, should they actually put these money to, let's say, construction of roads and...
We need aid to come in by sea, we need aid to come in by air, but most importantly, we need aid to come in by land because it is the most cost-effective way to do it.
But is
if there was a humanitarian ceasefire, if the fighting stopped, we could get a lot more done by land.
And
that is U.S. money. It is not UN money.
But do you think it's a waste of money?
That is a question best left to analysts such as yourself.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just a waste of US money, but think about how much can people do to help Gaza with that much of money? Well, and that's all from me.